It is not true that anything which emits no light is therefore without form. It is natural to think so because throughout human history seeing has meant knowing, and knowing has meant drawing boundaries. A star is a point, a galaxy is a blur, a nebula is a veil. If something does not shine, it seems to offer no grip at all, as though the very substance on which the mind rests were missing. And yet the universe has a habit of leaving traces without revealing itself. Gravity, for instance, does not need flashes of light to make its presence known. It can bend trajectories, accelerate bodies, stretch space itself, and it does so even where no luminous source exists to betray whatever is pulling the strings. This is the fracture. Invisible is not synonymous with empty. In fact, emptiness is often the illusion. Because when you observe a galaxy, what you truly measure is not its light, but the motion of its stars, the velocity of its gas, the geometry of its orbits. And those motions tell a story that light alone cannot tell. What destabilizes the common assumption is one simple and ruthless detail. Stars obey total mass, not visible mass. If light were all there was, orbital velocities would decrease with distance, just as they do in the solar system. Instead, in countless galaxies, rotation curves remain flat. The outer edges spin far too fast for the amount of matter we can see. It is as though every galaxy were wrapped in a cloak that does not shine, but weighs. That cloak never reveals itself, which is precisely what makes it so fascinating. Because the absence of light forces us into a different kind of cartography, a map built not from photons, but from consequences. It becomes a science of who pulls what, of how much bends, of what is missing. And once you begin to think this way, the universe changes. Galaxies are no longer islands of light floating in darkness, but luminous foam drifting atop an invisible ocean. Take galaxy clusters, the largest structures bound together by gravity. Through a telescope they appear as architectures of points, thousands of galaxies packed into a relatively compact volume. But when you measure the temperature of the hot gas between them, a plasma glowing in X-rays, you discover that the gas is far too hot to remain there unless an enormous gravitational force is holding it in place. Then you do the accounting. Add the mass of the galaxies, add the mass of the gas, and still it is not enough. The structure remains standing because of something you cannot see. And the cluster, which once seemed like a collection of lights, becomes a geometrical proof. Either invisible mass exists, or the laws of gravity themselves change when scales become cosmic. And here the universe reveals a trick that feels like science fiction but is pure general relativity. Mass does not merely attract. Mass warps space and time, and that distortion bends light itself. Which means you can see the invisible by watching how it distorts the visible. Gravitational lensing is exactly this. A massive object lying between us and a background of distant galaxies acts like a lens, magnifying, multiplying, curving. Sometimes the effect is spectacular, creating thin luminous arcs like scratches across the sky. Those are dramatic signatures, almost theatrical. But the most powerful part is the subtle one, weak lensing. It produces no obvious arcs, only tiny statistical stretches in the shapes of millions of galaxies. A single galaxy is chaos. You cannot know whether its shape is naturally elongated or distorted by gravity. But a million galaxies observed together begin to speak. They do not shout. They whisper a preferred direction. And that whisper becomes a map of all the mass lying along the line of sight. It is a modern paradox. The most precise maps of the invisible arise from distortions so faint they are almost imperceptible. You must correct for the atmosphere, the turbulence, the instruments themselves. You must model the way light spreads across a sensor. You must compare enormous datasets. But when you do, a pattern emerges. Not an isolated object, not a sphere, not a disk. A network. Filaments linking dense nodes, immense voids stretched between the strands, regions where matter gathers and regions where it thins away. This is the large-scale structure of the universe, and the light we see is only the froth upon its surface. This network is not an aesthetic detail. It is a memory. It tells the story of how the universe grew. In the beginning there were no galaxies, no stars, no planets. There was only a hot, nearly uniform plasma marked by tiny ripples, minute differences in density, but enough. Those ripples are imprinted in the cosmic microwave background, a signal arriving from when the universe was roughly 380,000 years old. It is an unimaginably ancient snapshot, yet astonishingly precise. In that primordial image, light reveals the oscillations of the plasma. But gravity was already selecting winners. Wherever density was slightly greater, attraction was slightly stronger. Over time those differences grew. Not evenly, not like fog thickening everywhere at once. They grew according to a merciless rule. What weighs more, rules. And here dark matter enters the stage without ever speaking a line. If the universe contained only ordinary matter, protons and neutrons, the growth of structure would have been hindered by radiation pressure in the early cosmos. The plasma was coupled to light, and light pushed back. But a component that does not interact with radiation can begin collapsing earlier, carving gravitational wells in advance. Then, once the universe cools enough for light to travel freely, ordinary matter falls into those wells. Galaxies emerge like luminescence inside caverns already excavated. And so the question becomes unavoidable. If dark matter emits no light, how does it sculpt the geometry of everything that does? The answer is not a photograph. It is a comparison. You place numerical simulations beside real observations. You allow a virtual universe, made of particles attracting one another, to evolve across billions of years. You alter the initial conditions until the resulting network resembles the one we observe. And when you are wrong, you are not wrong by a little. You crash into patterns that refuse to match. Too many small structures or too few, filaments too thick or too thin, clusters too dense or too light. The invisible becomes measurable precisely because it constrains everything else, like a hidden hand forced to leave coherent fingerprints on every surface it touches. And there is one kind of fingerprint whose elegance resembles a natural experiment. When two galaxy clusters collide, they do not smash together like rocks. Galaxies themselves are mostly empty space, so they pass through one another almost untouched. The hot gas, however, behaves like a fluid. It slows down, heats up, lags behind. If most of the mass were in the gas, gravity should remain where the gas remains. But in several famous cases, gravitational lensing maps reveal that the mass follows the galaxies, not the gas. It is as though the component that truly carries the weight passed almost frictionlessly through the collision, while the luminous, scorching matter remained behind to mark the point of impact. It is a difficult image to forget. Two immense shadows crossing through one another as if no obstacle existed, while around them visible matter twists, slows, burns. It is not a single proof that closes the debate, but it is a powerful constraint, because it separates what shines from what dominates the gravitational field. From here, no light takes on a different meaning. It is not passive darkness. It is structured darkness. Darkness with geometry, density, clumps, and filaments. Above all, it is darkness that can be traced, because gravity is a universal language. It asks no permission, cares nothing for whether an object is hot or cold, luminous or dark. If mass exists, curvature exists. If curvature exists, light deviates. And with enough patience, deviation becomes a map. And the most unsettling part is that this map is not an accessory to astronomy. It is its skeleton. Remove the invisible component, and galaxies fail to assemble as they should. Clusters cannot hold together. Gravitational lenses do not distort enough. You are left with a universe too light for its own architecture. It is like staring at a building and realizing the walls could never stand using only the material you can see. Somewhere there are hidden beams. And the only way to find them is to measure how the structure responds to force. To grasp how radical this idea truly is, you must go one step further. Not merely measuring mass, but measuring how its distribution changes over time. Weak lensing maps are not static. They are statistical and, in a sense, historical. When you observe distant galaxies, you see them as they existed in the past. Which means that by measuring distortions at different distances, you are building a sequence, a slow-motion film of structure formation. The cosmic web was not always like this. It took shape. It amplified primordial ripples. It transformed near uniformity into complexity. And here something subtle emerges. dark matter is not merely missing mass. It is also the parameter that determines how quickly the universe evolves from simplicity into structure. Because the growth of structure is a competition between attraction and expansion. Gravity tries to gather matter together. Cosmic expansion tries to pull it apart. If expansion accelerates, as multiple observations suggest, structure growth can slow down. And so maps of matter, especially those built through weak lensing, become a cross-check on the cosmos itself. They measure how much structure has formed, and how quickly. And that rate depends on how much dark matter exists, on how gravity behaves across enormous distances, and on whatever component may be driving cosmic acceleration. In other words, when you chart the shape of darkness, you are also interrogating the laws governing the universe itself. This is where invisible reveals itself as too poor a concept. If dark matter exists as a particle, it may possess specific properties. It may be cold, moving slowly compared with the speed of light, favoring the hierarchical formation of structures from small clumps to giant clusters. Or it may be warm, moving faster, erasing small-scale structures and smoothing the cosmic web on certain scales. You cannot see these differences by pointing a single telescope at a single object. You see them in the statistics of the cosmic texture, in the number of dwarf galaxies, in the roughness of filaments, in the distribution of lensing distortions. It is a form of physics in which the laboratory spans billions of light years and the instrument is built from accumulated whispers. And there is nothing mystical about it. It is signal engineering applied to the sky. To construct a map of invisible mass, you must separate noise from information. You must account for galaxies' intrinsic shapes, blurred images, uncertain photometric distances. You must control absurdly subtle biases, because a tiny error in one galaxy becomes enormous across 100 million. But when the method is robust, the reward is extraordinary. You obtain an image in which structures are drawn not by emitted light, but by deflected light. It is as though the sky, instead of showing you the bulbs, reveals the gravitational field that decides where those bulbs are allowed to ignite. And that distinction changes the very way you think about emptiness. The vast cosmic voids, regions containing few galaxies, are not necessarily regions without mass. They are simply underdense regions within the web, cavities between filaments. Dark matter is still there, only more diffuse. And precisely because it is more diffuse, it leaves different traces. Weak lensing can reveal weaker convergence, weaker average distortions. In practical terms, even nothingness has a profile. Even the absence of galaxies possesses a measurable shape within the mass distribution. It is a cognitive reversal. You stop associating what I see with what exists, and begin associating what exists with what exerts influence. Then there are measurements so indirect they feel almost poetic. Baryon acoustic oscillations, for example, are an ancient imprint, compression waves in the primordial plasma that left a preferred scale in the distribution of galaxies. Today we search for them as a statistical excess of galaxy pairs separated by a certain distance. It is a cosmic ruler. And that ruler, combined with gravitational lensing and the cosmic microwave background, ties together geometry and growth, space and time. Each piece alone suggests. Together they constrain. And what they constrain, once again, is total mass, and the way it organizes itself without ever becoming visible. At this point the implicit question sharpens. What exactly are we mapping when we map darkness? If dark matter is a particle, then these maps are portraits of a real yet silent substance. But if the phenomenon instead arises from modified gravitational laws, then the maps are not distributions of matter at all, but drawings of a rule. Either way, however, the structure remains. And it remains measurable. Because the difference between there is invisible mass and gravity behaves differently is not philosophical. It manifests itself in how the web grows, in how lenses distort, in how clusters assemble, in how collisions separate gas from gravitational potential. The invisible is not a refuge for the unprovable. It is a domain where the universe allows itself to be questioned only through consequences. And that is why cosmic maps are so hypnotic. Not because they show something beautiful, though often they do, But because they reveal something that, in theory, you should not be able to see at all. They are the product of a pact with reality. You will not give me light, and I will use your curvature instead. You will not reveal your substance, and I will use your dynamics. You will remain silent, and I will learn your accent from the distortions you impose upon everything else. When you look at a dark matter map reconstructed through weak lensing, you are looking at a kind of X-ray of the cosmos. Luminous galaxies are merely markers, the true target is total mass. It is a technique that, as it improves, moves toward an almost inevitable consequence. The wider the field becomes, the more the network emerges. The deeper the observation, the more of its evolution appears. The smaller the systematic errors, the more accurately competing models can be tested and discarded. Eventually darkness ceases to be an abstraction and becomes a topography: ridges, basins, bridges, corridors. And then, no light ceases to mean absence and becomes a method. Because light can deceive. It can be absorbed, scattered, obscured. It can arise from chaotic processes, from feedback loops, from bursts of star formation that flare briefly before fading away. Mass, however, as long as it gravitates, cannot pretend. It may hide, but it cannot avoid curving space. And on cosmic scales, curvature is a more honest signature than brilliance ever could be. The opening sentence, the one that sounded almost provocative, becomes something close to a working principle. Darkness has shape. It has shape because it shapes everything else. And if you learn to read that shape, you are not merely discovering where dark matter lies. You are learning how the universe builds complexity out of an almost perfectly simple beginning. You are following a thread that begins with tiny primordial ripples and leads all the way to galaxies, clusters, and the cosmic web itself. A story written not in light, but in the way light is forced to bend. If you made it this far, it means you love curiosity as much as we do. If you enjoyed this journey, leave a like, write a comment, and subscribe to the channel. It is the best way to support what we do. Your presence truly makes a difference. Until the next exploration.